Hey guys, I am sorry. I didn't mean to be that late. I got hi TX Mopar. I started watching something from Kelly Barlow and what some idiots are doing to her. Apparently,
Parents have many jobs. Family chauffeur is just one. Saving for your child's education is another.
Sorry about that. My video was playing, but she lost her son Ray recently to cancer, and I guess she came out with an update, and she was talking about some things as any grieving person, like she just said, she wanted to go to her community. She didn't know a lot of people in her real life who had gone through what she had gone through, and there are more people in the communities online, and it does make you feel not so alone. And apparently they just went at her and started hanging on her every word that she said, and so she had to come up with a new video that she was sorry she misspoke. And boy, I was crying with this woman, because these people online that just have to go, and nothing is off limits anymore. And I left her a comment because I said, among other things, but I said, the first thing a grief counselor told me that is something that I've taken to heart is that I am accountable to no one for the way that I grieve, which means no one has a right to tell me, oh, you're grieving the wrong way, you're doing this the wrong way, you shouldn't have done that, oh, that's too soon for that, that's too late for that, you shouldn't be feeling that, you shouldn't be feeling this. And I told her I actually had a viewer once that told me, berated me, scolded me, because I said that on the way to the funeral home, to pick out things for my son's funeral, I screamed in the car at the top of my lungs. And this person said, you shouldn't have done that. That's not good. There's something wrong with you for doing that. And when I told the grief counselor about this, that's when she said to me, basically, tell them to F off. You're not accountable to them. And that's what I told Kelly Barlow. Tell them to screw off. Really. You don't have any right to judge her grief, her loss, or anything. And I just can't even believe the lowlifes that get on and do that. It's just disgusting. It really is. It's absolutely disgusting. And today is my son Ray's birthday. It's 57 minutes ago. Yeah. So I'm in quite a state when I heard that, and then see them doing that to her. Just horrible that she has to come on and explain herself. Really sickening. Really sickening. But yeah. If you want, go watch her video. Leave her a comment. Tell her to tell them, take a hike. She shouldn't have to go on and explain it herself. If she misspeaks, she misspeaks. If she uses a word one way, she uses a word one way. She's grieving. Leave her the freak alone. Oh, I've got my right thumbnail is... Oh, what happened? Why do I have the wrong thumbnail? I put the right thumbnail in here. Oh my goodness. I really am. I have the right thumbnail. Why isn't it? Oh, I know why. It's just not showing here. Hold on a minute. Oh, I'm not that far off. Sorry about that. That's the one we need. Okay. You probably had deja vu. But tonight, we're going to talk about Chad Doerman, So the judge is going to throw out his confession, his entire interrogation. And this guy killed his sons in the most horrific way. The things he said in that interview, the things he did, bastard, just an unbelievable evil bastard for what he did. Pulled the kid from his wife's arms and shot him, ran after the son that ran away, shot him. Just a horrible, evil person. And that confession is going to get thrown out, and the jury is not going to see at his trial his confession. So we're going to go through that. And then we're going to talk about these Brooklyn twins attacked, one of them killed by a would-be admirer, suitor, somebody that wanted to moor with them. Okay? And then Elijah View, it's been confirmed that his blanket was found early in the investigation. So we're going to talk about those things. It's just disgusting. And we're going to talk about something else as well. So stay tuned, because it's something, but let's talk about which one? I think we'll do the twins. Okay, so the New York police are looking for two suspects after 19-year-old twins were stabbed, one fatally, at a Brooklyn deli early Sunday. Samaya Spain was stabbed in the neck and chest and died, and her sister Sanaya was stabbed in the arm. Witnesses say this took place when the twins rejected the man's advances. The suspect was not sober, and it escalated when the twins told him no. A witness said, "We were all having a good night before this. We had just left a party and we went to the store to get food. We were all getting sandwiches, beef patties, just to eat. We're hungry and we want to go home." Sanyaya, the sister, spoke with the New York Daily News, and she told them that the deli workers threw the suspect out after he became belligerent. The worker locked the door and then unlocked it to let the twins group out when they paid for their food. And she said, and I quote, "When we were done waiting for our food, he let us out of the store. After he let us out of the store, he locked the door behind us. And the suspect and his friends were waiting. He had a knife in his hand, and he was saying, 'I'm going to stab y'all in the face.'" And Sanaya said she was telling everyone to back up, and he pushed Samaya, the sister that died, to the ground. The twins' older brother stepped in and punched the guy with the knife, and it turned into a brawl. The man with the knife grabbed Samaya's phone and stabbed her when she asked him to give it back. He ended up killing her. No arrests have been made. So that's the kind of evil that's running around. Let me get this here. Let me go over here. So this was the deli. Where this happened in Park Slope, Brooklyn. It was the Slope Natural Plus Deli and Grill. Okay. What is going on here? Another something, okay. There's something else in Brooklyn where, in Flatbush. Wow. Okay. So, yep. They were just going to get some sandwiches, right? Just going to get some sandwiches. And now her sister's dead. And just horrible. Okay. All right, let's talk about Elijah View. About his blanket now. They're letting us know that they are confirming that his blanket was found between two rivers. Okay? A blanket that belonged to missing 3-year-old Elijah View was found in Manitowoc. I just put a graphic up there so we know we are on a different story, okay? Okay. So, Two Rivers Police said Monday afternoon a red and white blanket was confirmed to belong to the boy. It was found on Goodwin Road, east of Highway B. The blanket was found 3.7 miles from where he was last seen at an apartment in the 3900 block of Mishicot Road in Two Rivers. Police say the blanket was found earlier in the investigation, but they didn't elaborate as to when it was found. He was last reported seen at the apartment of Jesse Vang, where his mother, Katrina Bauer, had sent her son allegedly to stay with him for disciplinary reasons. Both of them have been charged with child neglect, and they are due back in court this week. On Monday, Vang filed a motion seeking to have the neglect charge dismissed. Police have asked the public to check surveillance cameras for videos of a beige Nissan Altima that may be connected to the case. Now, they got this vehicle of interest back, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago now. And I thought, okay, well, they're going to have something, going on with that. But nope. Not yet. And it's crazy. Where is Elijah View? What happened to Elijah View? We looked at the mother's Facebook page. We looked at, so much stuff there. And it's just, where is he? Where is he? And now let's talk about Chad Doerman. A judge ruled that his rights were violated, okay? His rights were violated. Kills his 3 sons in the most violent, horrendous way in front of his wife and his stepdaughter, and they will never forget that. They have to live with that for the rest of their lives. 3 boys are dead who were robbed of their lives, but this father over here was denied his rights. Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't even. Remember, let's put Doerman. Let's put this up of him. Okay, so let's go over here. So a Claremont County judge ruled that police violated the rights of Chad Doerman, who was accused of killing his 3 sons in June of 2023. 32-year-old Chad Doerman, indicted on 21 counts in the Claremont County Court, including 9 counts of aggravated murder last summer, and Judge Richard Ferenc ruled on Friday that Claremont County Sheriff's Office violated Chad Doerman's rights twice when it failed to advise him of his Miranda rights before interrogating him, and when detectives continued to question him after he said he wanted an attorney. The court ruled that prosecutors can't use those statements or audio or the video recordings from Doerman's interrogation. The judge's decision said the defendant's Miranda rights were violated after the defendant unequivocally and unambiguously invoked his right to counsel when he told the detective, Michael Ross, "I'll wait for a lawyer. I don't know, give me a couple of days. I can talk to a lawyer and get nice, good answers." So the judge said, and I quote, "Therefore, irrespective of the detective's failure to fully and properly advise Doerman of his Miranda rights as immediately set forth above, all statements obtained during the custodial interrogation shall be suppressed, and the states shall not adduce any of these statements in their case in chief." The court ruled prosecutors couldn't use statements or audio and video recording from Doerman's interrogation. Attorneys for Doerman asked the court to suppress portions of his interrogation during a February hearing on violating his Miranda rights. Doerman is accused of murdering his 3 sons, Clayton, 7, Hunter, 4, and Chase, 3, at their Monroe Township home. Okay, and we're going to talk about some of the things that Chad Doerman said in this. He said some really crazy things about killing your wife, and the judge is going by the law. With a case like that, as justice for these 3 boys, justice for their mother and sister and all that, as has the utmost importance. My gosh, come on, read him his Miranda rights. Don't do anything to jeopardize being able to use that. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. At last month's hearing, Detective Ross admitted that he did not read Chad Doerman his Miranda rights in full, specifically neglecting to say he had a right to a lawyer before questioning, which Dorman's attorneys said lasted more than 3 hours. Ross said he mentioned Doerman's right to a lawyer only after he started answering questions, and at some point, Chad Doerman reportedly told authorities that he wanted to talk to his father and a woman who he claimed was in the CIA, though neither were attorneys. Ross testified that Doerman had made a comment that the Bible says, you kill your firstborn, you kill your secondborn, you kill your thirdborn, but first you're supposed to kill your wife. I didn't kill my wife. Okay, and let's see. On March 15th of 2024, this is the Court of Common Pleas, Claremont County, Ohio, State of Ohio, versus Chad C. Doerman. And this is the pertinent and factual background. The defendant is alleged to have killed his 3 young sons, ages 7, 4, and 3, on June 15th of 2023. All were shot and killed at their family's home on Laurel Lindell Road in a more rural southeasterly area of Claremont County. It is also alleged he seriously wounded another child and his wife. The defendant was apprehended at the scene and immediately taken into custody. He was secured in the back seat of a deputy sheriff's SUV cruiser that was parked along Laurel Lindell Road, some distance from the actual crime scene. He remained in this cruiser for about 50 minutes until he was transported from the scene to the sheriff's office in Batavia, Ohio. The Claremont County grand jury returned a 21-count indictment against the defendant on June 22nd, 2023, and he stands indicted on 9 counts of aggravated murder, each coupled with 3 capital aggravating circumstances, 8 counts of kidnapping, and 4 counts of felonious assault. The hearing. The state presented 6 witnesses: Sheriff's deputies Chad Popham, Sheriff Rudd, and Melissa Schmies, Sheriff Detective Michael Ross, Renee Butcher, a social worker employed by Child Focus, Inc., who provides her professional services primarily for inmates within the county jail, and Amy Griffin, a nurse employed by the private medical provider who provides medical treatment for inmates within the county jail. The state also admitted without objection from the defendant the following exhibits, which are audio-video recordings captured by Detective Popham's body-worn camera on June 15th of 2023 while at the scene. And 2A and 2B are audio-video recordings that are captured on Deputy Rudd's body-worn camera on June 15th of 2023 while at the scene and in transit with the defendant to the Claremont County Sheriff's Office. Upon leaving the scene, Example 3 is a copy of the Miranda advisement card, the rights card used by Detective Ross prior to his interrogation of the defendant at the Sheriff's Office. Exhibits 4A and 4B are the audio-video recordings of the defendant's custodial interrogation at the Sheriff's Office on June 15th, 2023. Example 5 is the audio-video recording Ms. Butcher's interview with the defendant on June 16, 2023, in the defendant's cell at the county jail. And 6 is the audio-video recording of Ms. Griffin's medical examination and interview with the defendant on June 17, 2023, in the defendant's cell at the county jail. The defendant did not testify, and the defense called no witnesses and presented no other evidence of any nature at the hearing. The MTS is directed only to statements made by the defendant after he was transported from the scene and initially interrogated at the Claremont County Sheriff's Office and then transferred to the county jail. There are essentially 3 instances of custodial statements obtained from the defendant. The MTS challenges. The first instance is the custodial interrogation that took place in a small interview room at the Sheriff's Office on June 15th, 2023. The second instance is the Butcher interview that took place on June 16, 2023, in the defendant's jail cell after he was transferred from the sheriff's office. Ms. Butcher is a mental health social worker employed by a private entity, Child Focus, Inc. Her interview related to the potential mental health issues of the defendant at that time. The third instance, the Griffin exam, occurred June 17, 2023, also in the defendant's jail cell. The third instance was initiated by the defendant as he was complaining of chest pains and requested medical attention. These statements were elicited solely in response to Nurse Griffin's questions related to his claims of chest pains. The defendant raises a number of claims as to each of these three instances. The court will address each instance separately and address facts relative to each accordingly. The custodial interrogation. The defendant raises a number of claims during the custodial interrogation, conducted primarily by Detective Ross at the Sheriff's Office on June 15, 2023. The court summarizes these claims as follows. 1. Detective Ross failed to properly advise the defendant of his pre-custodial interrogation rights as enunciated by Miranda versus Arizona. Okay. A valid waiver of the defendant's Miranda rights was not obtained because Mr. Doerman was never presented with a written copy of his rights. 3. A valid waiver of the defendant's Miranda rights was not obtained as Mr. Doerman was never asked to sign a written waiver. And 4. The defendant unequivocally invoked his right to counsel, yet the custodial interrogation continued, therefore unabated, and the detectives employed outrageous police conduct during the custodial interrogation to such an extent that the will of the defendant was overcome, thereby rendering any statements made during the custodial interrogation involuntary. The second and third claims, as set forth above, are without merit. The Ohio, we don't even need that. After reading the Miranda warnings to TDS, Detective Reese asked whether he understood them. TDS nodded his head and continued to answer. Okay, this is about that case. We don't need to go into that. The fifth claim is set forth is also without merit, as will be addressed in more detail. Example 4A and 4B are the audio-video recordings of the custodial interrogation of the defendant. These two recordings total approximately 3 hours and 11 minutes. However, between these two recordings, there is approximately 1 hour where the defendant was sitting in the interview room and no interrogation was taking place. Thus, the real time the custodial interrogation took place was just a little over 2 hours. The interview room was small. It was a windowless room, perhaps 8 by 12, and there's a small desk in the right front corner with a chair. Mr. Doerman sat in a padded, cushioned, straight-back chair next to the desk. There's another chair in the rear corner of the room where another officer could sit. The defendant's claims regarding the issue of police coercion, that's a case they cited, hold on. The second category relates to the Butcher interview and the Griffin exam. The arguments and analysis relative to this category start at Section 2. Mr. Doerman's police recorded statements at subsections A, B, C, D, and E of his memorandum. Candidly, in these sections, there is a blend of claims, some of which are tied to the custodial interrogation than the latter two police recorded statements. Others appear more related to the police recorded statements and not the custodial interrogation. As to the custodial interrogation, at page 9 of the MTS, the defense argues, however, the individual circumstances of a suspect can make some, perhaps less obviously coercive conduct cross the line and result in a confession involuntarily. The court, in assessing the voluntariness of a confession, should look at the totality of the circumstances, including the characteristics of the individual suspect. It is submitted that the totality of the circumstances here, including Mr. Doerman's mental condition, show that the detective's actions overcame his will and his admissions were therefore involuntary. However, There is no evidence that the court as to the defendant's mental condition during the custodial interrogation. Again, the defendant did not testify, nor did he present any other evidence to even suggest what his mental condition was at that time. The defense did not cross-examine the interrogating detectives to ascertain their opinions of the defendant's mental condition during that process. Further, the defense does not elaborate or identify what evidence constitutes the totality of the circumstances relative to the above claim. A court is not required to scour the record for evidence to find support for a Mauvant's argument. Nevertheless, the court considers the following claims raised by the defendant in his memorandum at Section 2B. Police coercion to be asserted to challenge the legitimacy of the custodial interrogation. At page 13, the following claims are set forth. In this case, the totality of the circumstances include Chad Doerman was in jail. He had no power, no agency in the situation. No one in his position would reasonably think otherwise. At least one CCSO officer threatened him prior to this. Detective Schubert said outside the cruiser where Mr. Doerman was sitting loud enough to be heard, "Is that the MFer? Yeah, shut the door so I don't effing kill him." Well, I can tell you that when we watched that police cam and we saw these officers and we saw what happened to those kids and we heard them others, I said bash his face into that cement sidewalk. I'm telling you, I watched that thing. What he did to those kids, I'm sorry. Okay, that's why I can't do that crap. So, I think that's pretty tame with what he said. Okay? They had to go view what he did to 3 innocent kids. They had to hear that mother's cries about her babies being killed, that he ripped one right from her hands and shot him. And you're worried, you little sniveling evil baby, that he said that he wanted to effing... Oh boy, I'm sorry, this guy. CCSO detectives had previously ignored his request for counsel. Detectives used coercive tactics during the interrogation of the June 15th, including Detective Ross comparing him to a monster. Yeah, that's tame, monster. His mental state was such that he could not make a knowing, intelligent, or voluntary consent to police being present. Had he been asked, he was in no condition to object to their presence. Yeah, get out of here. He was calm as a cucumber sitting down there on the stoop with the shotgun by his side. He was not informed of the recordings and did not know police were recording the conversations. Yeah. The outrageous police conduct herein should not be countenanced. The court will address each of these claims as listed. That the defendant was in jail is certainly correct. That he had no power, no agency in the situation, and no one in his position would reasonably think otherwise is nothing more than a self-serving conclusion of counsel. This is not evidence of physical abuse, threats, deprivation of food, medical treatment, or sleep that constitutes police coercion. While at the scene and walking along Laura Lindell Road to his separate cruiser, Detective Schubert walks past the cruiser holding the defendant. He did utter, though profane, words and veiled threat as set forth above, but the claim he uttered these words loud enough to be heard begs the question, by whom? There is no allegation that the defendant heard them, and no evidence was adduced at the hearing that he did. The court has reviewed Rudd's body-worn camera that recorded these words, and Detective Schubert was walking at a normal pace as he was going to his cruiser. As he approached Rudd's cruiser with the defendant in the back seat, he was about 6 to 7 feet away along the driver's side of the cruiser. He did not stop walking and go over to the defendant and utter these words. He kept walking away from Rudd's cruiser. These statements may have taken 4 to 7 seconds to utter, and they were uttered in a normal conversational tone. He did not shout these words in the defendant's directions. At the time he uttered these words, there were other deputies standing in the same area. there was ambient police radio conversations close to the detective, and the defendant can be heard when the defendant that can be heard when the words were uttered. The rear door of Rudd's cruiser was only partially ajar, and the window was only about halfway down. Just prior to Detective Schubert's walk by, Deputy Rudd had turned up the air conditioning in the car as the defendant complained it was hot as H, increasing the noise level inside Rudd's cruiser. The court finds it most unlikely that the defendant could have even heard these words, and during the final 40 minutes of the custodial interrogation, Detective Schubert enters the interview room for the first time. He's wearing the same clothing as he wore during his walk-by. The defendant gave no indication that he recognized Detective Schubert, that he had seen him while in Deputy Rudd's cruiser, or that he had heard Detective Schubert's statements. Absent any evidence that the defendant actually heard these statements, this is not evidence of physical abuse or a threat as a means to gain a confession during the custodial interrogation, nor any of the other factors Garrett found to constitute police coercion. The claim that CCSO detectives had previously ignored his request for counsel appears to be more related to the police recorded statements and not to the custodial interrogation. That the detectives may have ignored his request for counsel will be more thoroughly addressed below. But standing alone, this claim is not evidence supportive of the factors of police coercion as set forth in Garrett. The first clause of the claim that detectives used coercive tactics during the interrogation of June 15th is just another example of a self-serving claim of the defendant. There is simply no identification by the defendant of any specific coercive actions consistent with the requirements set forth in Garrett that are present here to support this claim. The second clause of this claim is accurate in that the detectives used the term monster while interrogating the defendant. But the timing and context of the use of this term belies the defendant's contention here. State Example 4A captures the custodial interrogation from its inception. About 5:51 p.m. on June 15, 2023. The video runs about 2 hours. States Exhibit 4B picks up where Exhibit 4A stopped recording. Exhibit 4B runs for about 1 hour and 12 minutes. The word monster is first uttered by Detective Ross at approximately 25 minutes 31 seconds, and again at 25 minutes 51 seconds. In the same exhibit, at 26 minutes 33 seconds, Detective Ross states that, "I haven't lied to you. Don't lie to me." 26:36, Detective Ross tells the defendant that I have been nothing but kind to you. The defendant responds to this statement, 26:42, stating, "I know and I respect you, sir." The interrogation continues in 27 minutes 52 seconds, and at 28 minutes 20 seconds, Detective Ross uses the word monster the last 2 times. The court has reviewed this portion of the custodial interrogation a number of times without going into the details of how this word made it into the interrogation. The court finds that it was a reasonable use of the word in response to certain statements the defendant made about himself and his personal characteristics during the interrogation. The use of this word was very limited and only spoken 4 times, and they were not uttered in any threatening or overbearing tone. Consequently, the court finds that uttering this word 4 times was not so overbearing or coercive that the defendant's will was overcome. Thus, the use of the word is not evidence supportive of the factors of police coercion and set forth in Garrett. The claim regarding the defendant's mental state being such that he could not make a knowing, intelligent, or voluntary consent and that he was in no condition to object to their presence, whether directed primarily to the custodial interrogation, the butcher interview, or the Griffin exam, is once again nothing more than a self-serving conclusion of counsel. Again, the defense adduced no evidence to support this bare claim. The claim is certainly not evidence of any of the coercive police tactics addressed in Garrett. It's to establish a confession is involuntary due to coercive police conduct. There must be some indication of physical abuse, threats, deprivation of food, medical treatment, or sleep on the part of the police. The final claim that the defendant did not know the police were recording the conversations appears to be directed primarily to the butcher interview and the Griffin exam. This claim is of no real consequence to the determination of the voluntary-involuntary nature of the custodial interrogation. As noted earlier, the defendant's custodial interrogation lasted a little over 2 hours. During that time, he was given a bottle of water, a can of Coca-Cola, dipping tobacco. He was offered food, which was declined, and he was asked if he needed any medications, which he declined. While his hands were initially cuffed behind his back just prior to the start of the custodial interview, Detective Ross loosened them and moved his hands in front of his body, which enabled him to stretch his arms from time to time, drink water and Coke, and put dipping tobacco in his mouth, and his ability to move his arms was less restrictive than at the outset. Detective Ross's demeanor and inquisitional tone throughout the custodial interview was calm and non-threatening. At no time during the 2-hour-plus interrogation did any detective make any type of threat to the defendant, and the defense, having the same access to the recorded custodial interview as the state, and the court identifies none. At no time during the interrogation did any detective make any type of promise of any nature to the defendant, and the defendant identifies none. There was clearly not one single act of physical abuse of any nature inflicted upon the defendant during the interrogation. And after more than 90 minutes of being interrogated, even called a monster, the defendant acknowledged that Detective Ross had been nothing more than kind to him and that he respected him. And a number of times during the custodial interrogation, the defendant said he was not afraid or scared. One final note as to the issue of the alleged involuntary and coerced nature of the defendant's statements during the custodial interrogation. A similar custodial interrogation was addressed in another case, and it said, the court, having considered the totality of the actual circumstances before it, finds the statements made by the defendant during the custodial interview were voluntary, and the prong of MTS is denied. The first claim set forth asserts that Detective Ross failed to fully and properly advise the defendant of his Miranda rights before he initiated the custodial interview. Okay, let's see here. To summarize, we hold that when an individual is taken into custody or otherwise deprived of his freedom by the authorities in any significant way and is subjected to questioning, the privilege against self-incrimination is jeopardized. Procedural safeguards must be employed to protect the privilege, and unless other fully effective means are adopted to notify the person of his right of silence and to assure them that the exercise of his right will be scrupulously honored. The following measures are required. He must be warned prior to any questioning that he has the right to remain silent and that anything he says can be used against him in a court of law, and that he has the right to the presence of an attorney, and that if he cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to him prior to any questioning, if he so desires. Opportunity to exercise these rights must be afforded to him throughout the interrogation. After such warnings have been given and such opportunity afforded him, the individual may knowingly and intelligently waive these rights and agree to answer questions or make a statement. But unless and until such warnings and waivers are demonstrated by the prosecution at trial, no evidence obtained as a result of interrogation can be used against him. that these procedural safeguards seem to be fairly straightforward and easy to implement. Just follow the script. History tells us otherwise. And they go into another case, California. So where's somebody? Okay. Let's see. Before we ask you any questions, you must understand your rights. Okay. Keep going. Talking about another case. We really don't need to get into all of that. Okay. About 1 year, no, we're still talking about that. Hang on a minute. Okay, the defendant does not claim that he failed to understand the warnings read to him. Instead, he contends that the warnings are inadequate because they do not explicitly make reference to appointment of counsel. The warnings read to the defendant clearly apprised him of the state's intention to use his statements to secure a conviction, informed him of his right not to answer questions, and to have counsel present even if he could not afford to hire one. The warnings are no different from those approved by the court in another case. We therefore conclude that the warnings given to the defendant were adequate. Okay. I'm just going to try and go through some of this here. Okay, so oral warnings to be given to a subject prior to interrogation. Before we ask you any questions, you must understand you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court. You have the right to talk to your lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions and to have a lawyer with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish. Do you understand these rights? Are you willing to answer some questions? Between 39 minutes 51 seconds and 39 minutes 59 seconds, and reading from the rights card, Detective Ross advises Doerman of the following Miranda rights. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer before we ask you any questions. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. Doerman says, yep, at 40 minutes. 40 minutes, 1 second. Detective Ross states, you understand. Oh, good. At 40 minutes, 5 seconds, Detective Ross begins his interrogation of Doerman. As clearly exposed in State's Example 4A, Detective Ross inexplicably completely omitted the third invariable Miranda warning that he has the right to the presence of an attorney during questioning. Also of critical importance is the detective's failure to adopt any other fully effective means to notify Doerman of this invariable right to fully advise him of his right to silence. He simply embarked upon his interrogation of Doerman at 40 minutes 5 seconds. Accordingly, the court finds the detective did touch all of the bases required by Miranda. And the detective here did not advise Doerman of the full contours of each Miranda right. The court finds the decision. Okay, let's go on. I'm not going to go cite that case too much. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's go to Doerman. As noted above, Detective Ross began questioning Doerman at 40 minutes 5 seconds. In between 45 minutes 44 seconds and 45 minutes 53 seconds, Doerman states, I'll wait for a lawyer. I really don't know. Give me a couple of days. I can talk to a lawyer so that way I can get nice, good answers. 45 minutes and 57 seconds, Detective Ross states, I understand. To ascertain the full context of Doerman's request for counsel, the court begins its inquiry whether Doerman is being escorted from the immediate crime scene to Deputy Rudd's cruiser. Walking along the roadway to the cruiser at 1:08, Doerman asked Deputy Rudd to get his wallet out of his back pocket. Deputy Rudd immediately responds, hold on a minute. Okay. Walking along the roadway to the cruiser at 1:08, Doerman asked Deputy Rudd to get his wallet out of his back pocket. Deputy Rudd immediately responds, "Shut up, dude. You have the right to remain silent. Effing use it." Seconds later, Doerman responds, "Yes, sir." As the body-worn camera also have the running military time in the upper right corner, it reflects that Doerman was secured in Rudd's cruiser at about 16:30 or about 4:30 p.m. on June 15th of 2023. Deputy Rudd transported Doerman from the scene to the sheriff's office in Batavia. Rudd's body-worn camera reflects that Doerman arrived at the sheriff's office at approximately 17:57 or 5:47. He was then escorted into the sheriff's office and into the interview room. The state example 4A shows Detective Ross engaging the recording device in the interview room at about 5:51 p.m. Dorman enters the room shortly thereafter. For perhaps 2 minutes, Dorman sits alone in the interview room. He makes no statement of any nature. A deputy then enters the room and remains until Detective Ross re-enters the room at about 38 minutes. On state's example, Exhibit 4A, during the 38 minutes or so Doerman was in the interview room, neither he nor the deputy guarding him asked any questions or made any spontaneous statements. As noted, Detective Ross starts questioning at 40 minutes and 5 seconds. 45 minutes and 44 seconds, Doerman requests a lawyer. During this time period, Detective Ross asks a number of questions, most of which were not about the events of the day, but rather about a prior contact between the two past years and how he was feeling at the time. Doerman would respond to some of these questions, but he would remain silent after some. At one point, when Doerman was not responding to his questions, Detective Ross asked him if he was thinking and if he was all right. Doerman did not respond. At about 42 minutes, 18 seconds, Detective Ross asked Doerman, "Why don't we do this? Why don't you tell me what's happening? What's happened today?" At 42 minutes, 31 seconds, Doerman responds. Over the next 20 seconds or so, Doerman responds to some additional questions posed to him. Between 43 minutes and 44 minutes, 12 seconds, Detective Ross changes gears and asks him when he last ate and slept and if he was thirsty or hungry. And Doerman would answer some of these questions and not respond to others. At 44 minutes, 17 seconds, Detective Ross asked, "What happened to your family today?" No response. At 44 minutes, 30 seconds, Detective Ross asks, "Somebody make you upset?" At 44 minutes, 37 seconds, Doerman responds, but it's unclear what he says. Between 44 minutes, 40 seconds and 45 minutes, 6 seconds, Detective Ross poses about 5 questions about the day's events. Over the following several seconds, Doerman answers some of the questions, but not others. Finally, at about 45 minutes, 43 seconds, Detective Ross asked if Doerman was saying he just lost his way. Without hesitation and almost interrupting Detective Ross at 45:44 to 45:55, Doerman states, "I'll wait for a lawyer. I really don't know. Give me a couple of days. I can talk to a lawyer and get nice, good answers." Detective Ross responded at 45:57, "I understand." And then at 46:03, Detective Ross asked Doerman, "Do you have a lawyer?" From his apprehension at the scene, his placement in the cruiser at the scene, and during his transport to the sheriff's office, Doerman remained totally silent for over 1 hour while in police custody. He asked no questions, and he did not make any statements during this time period. And then, while in the interview room for nearly 40 minutes before Detective Ross began his interrogation, he asked no questions and made no statements. The court can best describe the interview process as one trying to pull teeth. Doerman would at times sit in total silence and not look at Detective Ross or answer his questions. At other times, he would hesitate for a few seconds before responding to a question. His conduct and demeanor from the time he was secured in that cruiser until he asked for counsel is that of a person either unwilling to talk to officers or exceedingly hesitant to do so. Okay, the first clause of Doerman's statements, "I'll just wait for a lawyer," is not a question, but a declaration that he wants a lawyer. The court believes that an ordinary person would understand this declaration. Unambiguously refers to having counsel present. The second clause, "I really don't know," could be considered ambiguous. Does it mean he really didn't know if he would wait for a lawyer, or if he didn't know if he had lost his way? The last statement from Detective Ross before that statement was made, taken in isolation, and if Doerman had stopped talking at that point, it is possible that an ordinary person might not understand the first two clauses unambiguously. Refers to having a lawyer present and lead to a finding that Doerman did not unequivocally invoke his right to counsel. But Doerman did not stop. The final two clauses of his statement, "Give me a couple of days, I can talk to a lawyer to get nice good answers," convinces the court that the ordinary person would understand these declarations. Unambiguously refers to having a lawyer present, and coupled with his statement, "I'll wait for a lawyer," leads this court to conclude that Doerman unequivocally invoked his right to counsel. The conclusion is bolstered by Detective Ross's responses to Doerman's declarations. "I understand, and do you have a lawyer?" Therefore, construing the totality of the circumstances leading up to Doerman's declaration and the full context of the words spoken by Doerman at the time he asked for a lawyer, the court finds he unequivocally invoked his right to counsel. Detective Ross was required to stop questioning him immediately. Okay, no evidence resulting thereafter from the interrogation can be used against him. The court will address these in tandem, the Butcher interview and the Griffin exam, relating to addressing an inmate's medical issues while in jail, be it one's mental health or one's physical health. State Exhibit 5, the Butcher interview, and Exhibit 6, the Griffin exam, are similar in the following manner. The real time each professional was in Doerman's cell was just under 2 minutes. Neither of them asked him any questions that could be reasonably construed as being with an intent to elicit incriminating statements. Both performed their respective obligations in a calm and professional manner, and neither engaged in any conduct that could be remotely considered as threatening or coercive. They both treated Doerman respectfully at all times. In fact, Ms. Butcher told him that she was there to check on him to see if he was doing okay, and was not there to judge him or make any judgments, just there to take care of him. Ms. Griffin simply asked a few questions to ascertain the nature of his symptoms that prompted him to request medical treatment. She is heard advising him that his heart rate was good at 83 and that he had no temperature and his blood pressure was normal. Her follow-up questions were minimal and simply asked if he had any history of the symptoms that prompted his call. While the defense asserts a number of alleged constitutional and statutory violations compelling the suppression of the statements Ms. Butcher and Ms. Griffin obtained from Doerman, they gloss over the fact the impact Doerman's incarceration in the county jail has on the various rights he claims were violated. While the Butcher interview and the Griffin exam were certainly not searches of Doerman's cell under the Fourth Amendment, the principles stated by the Hudson Court in support of its holding that the Fourth Amendment does not apply within the confines of a cell, nevertheless carry significant weight and import in resolving the issues here. A county jail statutorily mandated to provide medical services to all inmates. A medical provider includes a physician and/or healthcare providers. Subsection defines necessary care as medical care of a non-elective nature that cannot be postponed until after the period of incarceration of a person confined to jail, in a jail. The standards a county jail must implement and follow to provide the state-mandated adequate medical care to inmates is set forth in blah, 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 blah. Okay. So they're talking about, the mental and physical health they must give you. Okay, let's see. And they're talking about questions that they have to answer. The question now becomes if these standards impinge upon Doerman's constitutional and statutory rights as the defense claims, are they nonetheless constitutionally responsible and override any claimed violation by Doerman? Institutional safety is paramount in a jail setting. To delay an immediate mental health assessment to advise the inmate of his Miranda rights and accommodate a request for counsel is not reasonable. Such a delay could result in the deterioration of his mental health condition, thereby putting the inmate at risk and all staff members who must monitor his condition until counsel arrives. Finally, what is the ready alternative? Just sit idly by and hope that the inmate does not cause injury to himself or others nearby until his claimed constitutional right to counsel or privacy is honored? The court is satisfied that the state standard Ms. Butcher's complied with by conducting and her minimal intrusion of Doerman's privacy satisfies the test required by Harper. Accordingly, the statements made by Doerman in response to Ms. Butcher's questions will not be suppressed. The same analysis is equally, if not more so, applicable to the Griffin exam. Again, Doerman invited this conduct by complaining of chest pains. The jail is statutorily mandated to provide medical care for all inmates and, per the state standards as set forth above, provide the care 24/7 to suggest Doerman's constitutional rights to privacy in the presence of counsel before emergency medical treatment can be administered to him overrides the state standards requiring a jail to provide emergency medical services borders on the surreal. No one can reasonably argue that there is a ready alternative to delay providing emergency medical treatment to an inmate. The court is satisfied that the state standards Ms. Griffin complied with in tending to Doerman's emergency medical complaints satisfies the test requirement by Harper. Accordingly, the statements made by Doerman in response to Ms. Griffin's questions will not be suppressed. The court also finds questioning by Doerman. Let me see here. By Ms. Butcher and Ms. Griffin do not qualify as custodial interrogation as contemplated by Miranda. We conclude that the Miranda safeguards come into play whenever a person in custody is subjected to either express questioning or its functional equivalent. That is to say, the term interrogation under Miranda refers not only to express questioning, but also to any words or actions on the part of the police, other than those normally attendant to arrest and custody, that the police suspect. The latter portion of this definition focuses primarily upon the perception of the suspect rather than the intent of the police. This focus reflects the fact that the Miranda safeguards were designed to vest a suspect in custody with an added measure of protection against coercive police practices without regard to the objective proof of the underlying intent of the police, a practice that the police should know is reasonably likely to evoke an incriminating response from a suspect, thus amounts to interrogation. But since the police surely cannot be held accountable for the unforeseeable results of their words or actions, the definition of interrogation can extend only to words or actions on the part of the police officers that should have known were reasonably likely to elicit an incriminating response. Assuming for the sake of the argument that Ms. Butcher and Ms. Griffin were de facto sheriff's deputies during their encounters with Doerman, it is wholly unreasonable to suggest that they should have known their mental health questions and medical questions would be reasonably likely to elicit the incriminating statements which they recorded interview unequivocally show they did not. Finally, the defense claims that the Butcher interview and the Griffin exam violated certain state and federal statutes, and thus any statement of the defendant should be suppressed or without merit. And the court has determined that these two interviews with Doerman were constitutionally permissible. Suppression is not warranted. Oh my gosh, I'm tired. The court finds the following. The defendant's Miranda rights were violated because Detective Ross failed to properly and fully advise Doerman of them prior to initiating the custodial interrogation, and all statements obtained from Doerman during the custodial interview shall be suppressed, and the state shall not adduce any of these statements in their case in chief. Great. The defendant's Miranda rights were violated when the custodial interrogation continued after the defendant had unequivocally and unambiguously evoked his right to counsel. When he told Detective Ross, "I'll wait for a lawyer. I don't know. Give me a couple of days. I can talk to a lawyer and get nice, good answers." Therefore, irrespective of the detective's failure to fully and properly advise Dorman of his Miranda rights as immediately set forth above, all statements obtained during the custodial interrogation shall be suppressed, and the state shall not adduce any of these statements in their case in chief. The defendant's Miranda rights were not violated due to a failure of the detectives to have him sign a written waiver. The defendant's Miranda rights were not violated due to the failure of the detectives to give him a written copy of these rights. The statements obtained by the detectives as a result of the custodial interrogation, irrespective of the violations of Miranda as set forth above, were nevertheless voluntarily and were not the product of any coercive conduct by any detective or any other deputy who had any contact with Doerman at any time after his apprehension. The Butcher interview and the Griffin exam were constitutionally permissible, and none of the statements obtained from Doerman shall be suppressed. It is hereby ordered that the motion to suppress in the mind is granted in part, and all statements obtained during the custodial interview shall be suppressed, and the state shall not introduce States Exhibit 4A and 4B, the audio-video recording of the custodial interrogation, or in any other way adduce these. Great. Doerman is set to stand trial in August for fatally shooting his 3 sons, ages 3, 4, and 7. Doerman allegedly carried out the execution-style murders in front of his wife and stepdaughter. He was accused of planning his sons' murders for months before he did it. Doerman allegedly shot his 4-year-old son twice in the head before shooting the 7-year-old as he tried to run away. The 7-year-old was wounded from behind when Doerman then shot him twice in the head from close range. After allegedly killing his 2 sons, Doerman then snatched the 3-year-old son from his mother's arms and shot him in the head. Doerman reportedly shot his children's mother in the hand during this triple murder. The stepdaughter reportedly fled the home on foot and found a neighbor who could call the police. Before police responded to the scene, the boy's mother told a 911 dispatcher her babies had been shot. The 3 boys were found dead in a yard, while Doerman was found sitting with the rifle on the stoop of the house. Doerman has pled not guilty to aggravated murder, kidnapping, and felonious assault. Claremont County prosecutor Mark Tekulov said he could face the death penalty due to the aggravating factors in the case. Prosecutors have not revealed a motive. Okay. Let me see if you guys are still here. I'm tired, but that was something to go through. Let me see if you guys are still here. I don't even know if this is you. Hold on. I'm trying to get to the live chat. That is not the live chat. What happened to the live chat? What happened to the live chat? I'm coming, I'm coming. Oh my goodness, hold on a minute. I need giggies. I need giggies, please. Okay. Trying to get back in, guys. Give me a moment. Oh, here we come. All right, I am back in, and thank you for waiting. Snow remover. They have enough evidence without his words. Hey, Casey Jones. Casey Jones, I'm not sure. I think you sent something by PayPal, but you didn't buy anything from me. Was that for someone else? Because I don't think you bought anything from me unless I'm blanking out. Let me know if that's from someone else. And if it's from someone else, I'll just return the money to you. And they'll send you a request, the seller. I'll give them your information. Okay? Let me know. I think that might be from Chris Free or Margot or someone. Let me know. You can let me know. Casey Jones. And I'm in. Hi, everybody that's here. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate that. Hi, It's Pink. Hi, Marianne. Hi, Casey Jones. Hi, everybody. Today's Ray's birthday, March 19th. Mr. Electric says, I'm totally with the cops on this. They walked into this horror story. The carnage on this man's lawn would have rattled me. Oh, yeah. Mr. Electric, it was horrendous. Oh, my gosh. Let's see. Satan isn't hiding anymore. He's out in the open, and he shows how evil he is and the evil they are doing. Yeah, it's horrendous, right? Really horrendous. Hello, Sassy Darcy. I bet his babies thought he was a monster. Oh my gosh. Horrendous. Hi, Prime Objective. How are you? It's from Wednesday night. Okay. So what I'm going to do, Casey Jones, I'm just going to refund that to you. Okay? And White Angel, if you're listening, I sent you a request, and I just wanted to make sure you're getting that because I really need to get that wrapped up. And I'd like to get that. Thank you, Snow Remover. I'd like to get that, it's been a few days, okay? It's been I think it'll be a week on Wednesday. So I'd like to get that taken care of, if you would, please. And I'm trying to think everyone else has been, is all up to date from whatever I've sent out. And that's great. Thank you so much. Sandra M., your stuff is going out tomorrow. It'll be in 2 boxes, and I can't wait for you to get it all. And you know what? I found out that I had another Gone with the Wind figure, and so it belonged to that set, so I got that along to Sandra, so that's nice. She has the whole kit and caboodle there, along with some very nice things that Depression wear. And so yeah, okay, Casey, I tomorrow I will get in there and give you a refund. I'm trying to think what else I have to do. So tomorrow I'm going to trying to get a little more billing done. Tomorrow, I don't know. I can't promise anything really for tomorrow about what I have to do. I know I have to bake a birthday cake for my son, and I know I have to get through the day, okay? So I don't know. I could say I'm going to do billing or do this or do that. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing. So I won't put any demands on myself other than that what I want to do. Hi, Margot Ellingsworth, with making a cake and celebrating my son's birthday. All right, but if I do get to do other things, we'll see what they are. Got a lot of things I've got to get done around here. A lot of things. And what else? I think we're time to play word cookies. I'm a little worn out tonight. That whole Kelly Barlow stuff really got me fired up, and then there was some other stuff that got me fired up, and then this Chad Doerman, that just infuriates me to no end. And to have that go out, then you've got, just innocent people all the time being killed, and it's sickening after a while. All right, let's play some word cookies, right? Let's relax a little bit, try to do some things. I don't know. Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Snow Remover. Thank you, Casey Jones. Okay, so let's do this. Still dealing with my anemia, which doesn't let me do. There's March 19th. Okay. Let's play. Okay. Doe a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of wood and song. Shoot. Okay, let's see. Oh boy, let's see. What do we have? Idol, American Idol. American Idol. We used to watch that all the time. I watched a little bit of Jimmy the other night. Load and oh, what should we do here? What should we do? What would you do for a Klondike bar? What happened to Margot? Margot, what happened to Elle? Did she go to bed again? Oh no. Lido. The Pepperidge Farm cookie. Lido. One of my favorites. Lido. The chocolate and the coconut. That was my favorite. Lido cookies. Yum. Pepperidge Farm mint Milanos. She sure did again. She went to bed already? Wow. I thought she wanted to see the true crime. Girl's sleeping too much. Sleeping her life away. Okay. Okay. Belay. I said that, didn't I say belay? I think I did. Belay. Nope. shoot. Olay, olay, olay. Hi, M.E. How are you? How are you, M.E. M.E.? Okay. I was running the right way with that, but I just get, oh, pal. No pal am I? And then above that has to be Hey, Joe, good night. We got that at the same time, Margot. Let's see what I got free. Free, I tell you, free. I tell you to claim it. It's free. Free is good. All right. Anything else? Are we only on 8? I feel like we were on 8 before. I feel like we did these. I feel like we're doing these. Peel. Yeah, peel. And heel. Right? And clap. And let's see. Chap, we got play, plea, take a plea, take a plea. Lace, pace. This little power of mine. Cape. Help! I need somebody. Help! Not just anybody. Tired. I'm so sorry. I hate when people do that. I can't stand it when people do that. Why am I doing it? A leech, a leech, a leechy, leechy, leech. Let's see. Hi, Brenda P. Hi, Brenda P. I have that each. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about I am so sorry about I don't mean to yawn. I'm sorry. I hate when people do that to me. Chapel. We're going to the chapel and we're gonna get married. Hey, I really love him and we're... Okay. Chapel in... Cheap. Oh, I already have cheap. Hold on a minute. Peach, a leech and a peach and a leech and a peach, and it's got to start with a P, or it's got to start with a P. We know it's got to be a P, and you know probably it's an L. And it's place, it's place, it's place, it's place. I just saw that. Yay! Think about it enough, you see it, you'll see it. Do just a couple more and then we're gonna probably get out of here because I'm exhausted today, I really am. And I've got a very grueling day tomorrow. You're tired too? Yeah, I know, we're tired. We gotta go to bed. 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 Bed. I'll try to do more videos during the day. I have one coming about how to get these utensil marks out of your bowls and stuff, but I have to do a voiceover on it, so it's coming. But I'm trying to put some more content. I've got to get some other things up by the 20th. And a couple of other things that I've got to get on. So I have to get those done tomorrow, even though whatever. I better go to bed. All right, good night, everybody. Arm, I'll do arm. Let me do arm. Love you guys. Be good. And I'll talk to you oral. And moral. Okay. All right, and probably, is it more? No. All right, I love you guys. God bless. Prayers. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Those of you that came and stayed and helped. See you tomorrow. Bye.